Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today for the NVivo Research Network on accelerating your literature review with NVivo. I think it's helpful just to talk about the research process with NVivo overall. So one thing NVivo can definitely help you do is manage your data or your lit review journal articles and your research or lit review process. So it doesn't dictate to you how you work, but it can help you organize. We also have some automation tools. So we have NVivo transcription, which I'm not showing today, but you can definitely go to our website and learn more about it and get a trial. We also have automated insights with themes and sentiment. So I'll be showing that to you today. Rigorous analysis, so using coding and queries to help you go through the lit review. Share findings with these different visualizations. And we do have collaboration tools to help you collaborate with your colleagues and teams. So even with a lit review, if you might be on a team and you're taking different parts of the lit review, you could also use these to help you. I like to point out that NVivo is used with all these different types of data sources because I think sometimes people just think of it as with Word or PDFs. But you can see here we do integrate with bibliographical software like Zotero, Mendeley, RefWorks, and EndNote. If you don't use those softwares, it's not a problem. You can always bring in your journal articles yourself, like I did. I didn't use these for my dissertation. And then I just like to review this because I found this helpful to think about how NVivo could help you throughout your research process. So with the lit review, you can import your libraries or articles. It helps you organize, and then it's going to help you with your own data collection. So you can code on your own data to find out, what you're seeing. And then you can even do queries to dig deeper, either in the literature or your own data. And what I found helpful is because I used NVivo for my lit review, which had, what the expert said, I could also then see very easily compare it to what I found in my data. So then it made it a lot easier to write my findings because everything was in one place, and then also to write that final report. So these are the different parts of NVivo that I'll be showing. So importing sources, coding to PDFs, utilizing externals, using, I should say, codes here. I keep forgetting to change that. Lexical and coding queries, framework matrix, and visualizing your data. So I'm going to go through these slides a little fast because they're in the handout. So feel free to download that and you can sort of read through them yourselves. But this is just showing how NVivo can, I want to just talk about how NVivo can support through the full literature review process. So it will help you organize by collecting and managing articles. You'll be able to search through your literature. It will also help you with the interpretation and analysis of the literature. So, you're going to be reading through, making comments, interpreting and analyzing, also finding gaps in relations or variances, and then continually reviewing, writing, and updating it. So it can help in all these stages. So with collecting and managing articles in one place, like I mentioned, all the different bibliographical software we integrate with, but we can bring in PDFs. We do have a tool called Encapture. It comes with NVivo and it sits on your browser. So if you're looking at maybe policy documents or something, you're getting them off a website, you can actually download those and NVivo will create those as PDFs. We also have a way, if you have you're working with books, reading through them, you can create a document in NVivo with your notes on these. So it's all part of the lit review process. And also with the process with using lit review, we can help you review your literature through different lens with NVivo. So doing a text search or word frequency, the word cloud example, auto coding for themes, that's what it should say here. And then organizing and analyzing beyond what's possible manually. So to go through that reading, looking through coding strategy patterns, you can use word frequency, coded themes to codes, annotations, and memos to help you with that. Also, there are tools and visuals to show, maybe there's some gaps in the literature. So in this case, this is a code references to follow up on, the researchers keeping track of, all right, I'm seeing some gaps here, or maybe I was reading an article about a topic and found in their sources that these other authors talked about the same. So I need to go and read that article. So these are the different ways to work in NVivo with that. And then to help you write your review, your work, you can easily link to evidence with your memos, your codes, and link to sources. This is actually a sample project that you can download yourself and work with. Now this is new NVivo, and so it has a little bit different look to it. It's a little more modern, a little easier to get around. The navigation panel is organized pretty much the same way as 12, but we have an import section, which helps you think about how you're going to organize your data. We have an organized section that's all about the codes, the cases, the notes here, sets, and then lastly, explore with your queries and visuals and reports. So you can see here they've already brought in literature, but let's say I want to import from bibliographical software like EndNote. So I only have EndNote, so I'm going to use that. So I'd go to import here and go to bibliography, and you can see I can pick from all these. So I'm just going to go, oh, I'm sorry, before I do that, so that's there, but before I do that, I actually, the process is first to go to EndNote or your bibliographical software, pick out the articles that you want to bring into NVivo. So for example, I have a folder here called Photo Voice. So I want to bring all these articles in, and even if they don't have an article attached to them, the abstracts information about it. So I'm going to go to File and say to export. It's going, in this case, I'm asking it to export to my desktop, and with EndNote, you have to create an XML, but I believe with all the other ones, it's a RTF. So just so you know that. And then I would save that and would get saved to my desktop. So I've already done that. So just to save some time, I'm going to go to NVivo here and go to bibliography and go to EndNote. And so it's going fine when I go to my desktop, the folder here called Photo Voice. And so then I can ask the software to bring it in. I get this wizard. I tend to bring it in as author and year. And it's actually going to create file for me with this, and also create, so externals are like if I only had an abstract, I didn't have the journal article, it would create in the external information about that. And so I'd go to import, and it would then, in this case, I created a folder called Photo Voice, and it has all the articles I brought in. And it's going to tell me if it has a memo link, which means in this case that is the information. So if I had any notes in EndNote or any of the other bibliographical software, NVivo will then help me bring in those notes here. So that was, with the, for example, with this article, if I open it up, it's going to show me the notes that came in from EndNote. And I have the abstract and so on. You can always, code on abstracts too and search through them. Another thing NVivo does when it brings it into NVivo from something like EndNote is it creates references for each. So these are the different journal articles, and it assigns the date of publication, and it is a journal article. And article type, everything that was in EndNote comes in as a reference, and then these are attributes and assigns those values to it. So it automatically does that, which I think can be helpful. So if I go back, for example, to Photo Voice, one thing I could do is I could just start opening up a article and starting to read through it. So maybe I want to think about, creating a code based on methods. So I can go here, and these are already codes that have been created by the researcher, but I can create a new one at any time. So one way is I can go and highlight everything I want about methods, drag and drop, and bring it in here, and I'll just call it methods. And it comes up, and you can see that that one section that I just coded is in the code now, and it's assigned to this. So what's nice is if I'm going to go write about a certain type of method, in my lit review, I have what everyone said about that method in one place, so I can easily either, export this code to write about it into a Word document, or I can copy and paste it from here, and I always can get back to the original and see where it was coded. So that's me going through everything one at a time, which could be time consuming. So we do have ways in NVivo you could actually do some shortcuts for yourself. So if I go to Explore, one thing you might find helpful is a word frequency query. So I can select folders. So in this case, maybe I want to look at just what's in the systematic reviews here. And I'll look at the 100 most frequently used words. I could do exact matches or stem words. I think I'll do stem words too. And I'll run this query. So it's going to go through all those articles for me and show me the word. So not surprising, this is research about virtual reality and health. The word virtual and reality is top, technology, and so on. So in this case, it just might help me get started. Where should I start? And then you can see the similar words here. If I go to word cloud, it just gives me a visual of the word. So the larger the word in the word cloud, the more information is on that, more frequency there is. So that will come up in a second. I'll show you that. Okay, so it's coming up here. So one thing that's coming up for me is treatment. So maybe I want to see what are people saying about different treatments. So I can actually right click here and run a text search on treatment right from the word cloud. And so it's showing me these articles are talking about treatments. So I can actually just go to the references and see what they said about treatment. I also have another visual called a word tree, which again, it's a way for me, it's showing me the 5 words before and after treatment. So is there any treatment of? Okay, that might be interesting. Anything else that's really standing out here? BR-based treatments. So let's see, if I go to treatment of, and I run a text search on this, what comes up? Because it might be more specific for me than just treatment. Treatment of cycle. So now this tends not to be enough information for me when I'm reading through this. So I tend to go and say, ask the software to do broad context and run the query. And so now I get a whole paragraph around this, which just typically is better for me. So, so now that I've done, the software's done a lot of work for me already around treatment, I want to save the results, and I'm going to select it in the codes folder. And I'm just going to call it, in this case, treatments maybe. And it will create a code for me. So you can see it right there, and it'll pop up in a minute. So it's showing me that there's 4 sources that are in the folder I picked around treatments, and 73 coding references. So each one of these is a coding reference. So again, if I want to go talk about different treatments, I can export this to a Word document, and it'll help me start writing about that. Now, another way to use NVivo to help is, again, if I go to, in this case, I'll go to empirical articles. I can, and I'm going to choose all of them. And I want to use the autocode feature in NVivo. So in this case, it'll do autocode by themes or sentiment, what's positive or negative. It will also do using existing coding patterns. So if you code about 15% of your literature that comes into NVivo, the software sort of picks up how you're coding, and it will then help you code the rest. So in this case, I'm going to identifying themes. So the software is using an algorithm to go through all the journal articles. And it's showing me this hierarchy of codes. Now I can, if I want, I don't have to bring all these. Maybe I want to get rid of scale here, and then I'll go next, and I can ask software to code by sentences or paragraphs. It will save the auto coding in a separate folder, which I like because I can then decide, do I want to bring some of this into my own coding or not, or keep it separate. And then it's going to give me 2 visuals in a second. So the first visual is a hierarchical chart. So I can go here to treatment and then see the sub codes underneath it. I could double click on any of these to get to the actual information. And then I also have a table, which I find helpful with all the articles, and it's showing me all the themes. Now, people typically do this like I'm doing at the beginning of my lit review process, just to get an idea of what's in it, or maybe even in the middle to see, where I'm at, and then at the end to see if you reached saturation. So this is in the new version. Now, if you have 12, if you have Pro, it is not. If you have Plus, it is. So, and you can always, upgrade. And if you have Pro, you can always upgrade and then have access to it. But right now, it's just in 12 Plus, and then the new NVivo that came out in March. So those are just different ways to help you sort of get started. And then you can see here, if I go to auto-coded themes, they're all listed here, and then I can read through them and decide, if it makes sense for me to bring them into my own coding or keep them separate, or just help me think about what I'm seeing here. And then you can see they also did the positive and negative here, where they'll pick up on that too. Now, I just want to talk about how you can also use the software to help sort of start thinking and analyzing with your literature review. So you've done some coding. You have, in this case, they have different codes, mental health applications, reality, and so on. So the researcher is starting to put some things together on what they might write about in regards to their lit review. But part of that process was they most likely did a few things. So one is, if I open this article up, I could start reading through this and deciding if, maybe I want to remind myself about something that I read. So augmented reality is more recent technology. Okay, so that's maybe something where I need to really do more work on this and read more articles. So I might want to write an annotation to myself. So to do an annotation here, I just highlight the text, right click, and say new annotation. So think of annotations as sort of writing a comment in a Word document. Okay, something like that. So I then see that in the text, this is highlighted blue. So if I click on it, I then know that an annotation is associated with it. But a lot of times also what researchers will do is, if I go to notes here, they'll create memos. So you can see that the researcher has created analysis memos and article summary memos. So that it's up to you how you work with this. So they have a journal, maybe just thinking about their lit review. So maybe in this case, I want to think about augmented reality, or actually maybe I'll do treatments, because I did a code to treatment. So I can create a new node memo. I could write a description, and then it comes up. And one thing I do tend to use is if I go to edit, I insert a date timestamp, because I just find that helpful to keep track of my thoughts. And I could even, which I think is helpful too, if I go back to codes, I think I had my treatments one, I could have the code open right next to the memo, and that can help me sort of think about, my analysis about this, because maybe I am going to be talking about different treatments in my lit review, and I want to analyze it further. So people do have questions, and I'll definitely get to them. I just wanted to go through the demo first, and then I'll answer the questions.
I did have one
Go ahead.
question. Can I import my projects from NVivo 12 into the new version of NVivo? Will the new design accommodate some of the old terminology, nodes, etc.?
So what will happen, and I've done this multiple times with different versions, is basically when you go to when you open up new NVivo, you go find a project you want to bring in, the software asks, you want to convert it. You say yes, and it converts it into the new version. It won't say codes anymore because are nodes, I mean, because now it says codes, but basically it's the same concept. What I tell people is always save a copy of your 12 or your past project just in case. I mean, it's the software stuff, you always want to make copies so that then when you import it, you can see, is that something that's working for you? Okay, another thing I want to show you is some higher level ways to work with your data. So we do have under Explore here, and these are in the older versions too, matrix coding query. And so for example, if I wanted to see, I can just, let's see if I go through, I'll just pick these articles. And I want to see what was coded in them. I can go to my codes here. Let's go and see if I get anything out of this result. Let's see, I'll pick some codes and run the query. And I can see here, I like to use the heat map. So maybe not the best example, but showing this author. So maybe this is saying I just haven't coded these other ones as much, what we're finding with different other health issues. Now this kind of, you can export this to a spreadsheet. You can create a chart in NVivo based on this too and export it. So there's some ways to do visuals. We also have a crosstab query. So in this case, if I bring in different codes here, I'll just bring these so you can get. And I can go by, because we brought in the reference information from EndNote. So if I want to see based on year of publication, is there, am I seeing certain years people are talking about different areas here? So that might be of help to me. So there's different ways to look at this with your data. Just curious. No, okay, nothing in that. But yeah, so there's different ways to go a little deeper with your data. Another type of tool is a framework matrix, and this is in NVivo 12 Plus. I'm not sure if it's in Pro, but it is in NVivo 12 also. It's not, if you have a Mac, it is not in the Mac, either is the Autocoding. Sorry, I didn't say that before. So for the framework matrix, but I do like to point out to people with Macs that a lot of our trainers have Macs, but they use the Windows version by putting it into a virtual, like a parallel, using Parallels so they can get into the Windows environment on their Mac. So it's just something to think about. So for a framework matrix here, it's easy to create this framework. And go to columns. And I'll pick some authors. And then in columns, pick some codes. So again, go through these. So this is going help me see what these different authors said about the different sorry, my screen gets smaller and then I can't always find what I need here. It's not, I can't see, so I need to ask it to do a, sorry, not sure why it's not. So what happens when you do this, you pick on auto summary, but for some reason I'm not getting that. So I'm going to show you an example one. Systematic review with health issues, systematic reviews and references. So let me do that. So this is what I was, so here they did, and they were able to say by each article what were the different references, because the researcher had coded that. And then for this one, for systematic review of health, so this is by the codes. That's what I was trying to do. So with anxiety and general specific anxiety, so I can see this article, what was coded for these different topics. So again, this is something that can be nice to export to a spreadsheet and help you get started with your writing too. Some other visuals that can help you, if I go down to the maps here. So for example, one of the maps the researcher created was a concept map. So they're explaining the way they will be using NVivo, or not even just NVivo, just going through their lit review process. So they have that. So this can be helpful to show maybe working with a team or your advisor, how you're working on your lit review. This is a project map bringing in codes on mental health applications and seeing how that's related to different codes and the journal articles here. Here's another one, VR pain. So looking at VR and pain references. So where are the references coming from in regards to this? And then another type of, I'm just going to go to one of these and go right click and go to visualize, and I'm going to do an explore diagram from here. And so just looking at this one article, NVivo is going to show me the different codes that were coded to it and the different authors that are involved. So again, it's just a different way to look at your data visually to see, is there something I'm missing or I want to take to a different step. So any other questions about NVivo, and feel free to type them in. I'm just going to go back to the PowerPoint real quick to sort of summarize some of what we've done here. So this is just to summarize how NVivo can help be your literature review assistant, so helping you manage the articles, search, read through them, identifying gaps, and then help you with the writing and updating process there. And then these are just different ways NVivo are different products that can help you throughout your research process. So I don't know if Patrick, did you want to talk about this?
Just the whole NVivo process, really. Yeah, I mean, it's really good to know from an aspect with NVivo. There's just, from everything that Stacy was talking about, NVivo can really help you out with all those different aspects when it comes to your research process. So we have NVivo transcription. There's two different types. There's pay per hour, and there's also unlimited transcription, which is a module. And then you have your NVivo desktop, which could be whether it be NVivo 12 or the newer version of NVivo. That's where you're going to be managing and analyzing everything. And then the next step would be if you're using a lot of collaboration, if you're working in a team, we do have a newer module called NVivo Collaboration Cloud. This can only be accessed by having the newer version, so everybody has to be on the new version of NVivo in order to use NVivo Collaboration Cloud. We also have an NVivo Collaboration Server, which it doesn't use cloud as much. It's more just for a designated server, but also great for simultaneously using users at the same time and using NVivo at the same time. And then once that's all done, we do have learning modules as well, so you can get a certification. We have online courses, on-site workshops, and then also with Stacy's NVivo community, that's a great help for you guys as well. So you can see that NVivo really supplies the whole process, the whole research process that we can give you. And If you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to me in my email. And Stacy knows a lot about it too, so we'd be happy to help out.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. I do have a podcast, and I'm just pointing this out because it's relatively new for us. So you can listen really on any of the major platforms. You just sort of search NVivo and it comes up. If you're doing any research that you want to share with people, reach out to me, because the podcast is a great way to share with other researchers on what you're doing. You really hear the passion of the researcher's voice when you listen to the podcasts. And to join the community, this is really meant to be a global network to help people create a community of practice around qualitative research and NVivo use. So there's a bunch of different ways you can get involved and also get updates on our upcoming events.